Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Design Recharge. I'm super excited to have my friend Jason Frostholm, and he's actually lives in Mobile where I live. So I'm excited to have him here, and we're gonna dig into some things. He's a solo designer at a corporate agency, and we're gonna maybe talk a little bit about that. But even years ago, that's why I started Design Recharge, was because I wanted to connect with more designers, because I kind of felt like I was in a vacuum also. And I kind of wanted to get exposure or learn about other designers and I didn't have a ton of time and I didn't have a ton of money. So I did this. And so it's been a huge life changer for me. And so Jason sort of did the same thing with Creative South. So we're going to get his story. And
hopefully I won't bore you to death.
You definitely won't. So Andre's saying solo designer. So meaning you're the only designer at this company, right?
Yes, I am the lone creative and for an engineering firm that has 11 offices from Philly to Houston. We're headquartered here in Mobile. But yeah, I'm the creative director there. I am which sounds really impressive until you realize that I'm also the only creative there. So
you're the production designer.
I am the production designer. I am the art director, the motion designer, the videographer, the social media guy. You name it. If it's advertising, marketing based, I'm the guy doing it.
Well, cool. Well, so we were in similar, because there wasn't an AIGA. There was really not a creative, and we were in the same city. And right. So we didn't really know. And so we were both founding members of the AIGA Mobile, Mobile chapter.
Mm-hmm.
So, but being alone at work can be kind of, you feel like you're in a vacuum. You don't get the kind of feedback maybe you need, or just your creativity can, it's really great in some ways, and then it can be really bad. But you've done a really good job of making sure that you have influences from other creatives. I know you're really involved in some Slack channels where you post things and you get feedback, which I think is terrific for somebody who is a solo designer. But let us start like I'd start with everybody else. Give us a little bit of your background and where your love for design began.
Sure. Well, where did my love for design begin?
How old were you?
How old? I'm not going to tell my age. That'll date me. Several years ago.
No, but it wasn't like when you were in 5th grade or something.
No, I started noticing it in high school. I didn't know what graphic design was at that point. I really liked advertising design, though. A lot of, everything from like Toulouse-Lautrec to Russian propaganda posters to things like that. I started noticing around high school. I was really big into comic book art. I wasn't great at always reading them, but I always collected them for the art. So I started noticing things like that. And I had a couple friends who were in the same art classes as me that wanted to get into advertising design, and I kind of started looking into it because of that, because you're in high school, you want to be with what your friends are doing. So that's really where I first started noticing it. Then when I got to college, my first time around, because I took the extended path where they asked me to take a brief break because I was having a little too much fun and not going to class enough. But when I first started, I started off as an advertising major. I was never undeclared. And then, so screwed around, got asked to take a break. And when I decided to get back into college after a varied career of exciting things like running the meat department at Winn-Dixie and putting together the suspensions on golf carts for Club Car, finally had enough of that where it was like, this isn't for me. I'm not cut out to be a manual laborer. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I just am far too lazy for it. And decided to get back into school and moved down here to Mobile. And that's kind of the where I got into graphic design at the University of South Alabama, where you teach.
Where I teach, but you didn't have me as your teacher.
No, I graduated well before you were here.
So Brian White wants to know, what is your dream job?
What is my dream job? Lottery winner.
I should ask that for everybody. I think that's an awesome question.
Lottery winner, but since my odds, especially since I live in a state that doesn't have the lottery, aren't that great.
That's not really a job either. That's like a wish.
I could make it a job. I
Okay.
could be happy doing 40 hours a week of winning the lottery.
What would you do if you had no issue with money? What would you spend your time doing?
It's going to sound hokey and self-promotional, but I'd do more stuff with the podcast. I'd be able to put more time to it, and then spend time with my family. And take up other creative hobbies. I'm not
Like what?
I don't know. I haven't. That's a good question. Definitely more design, and I've always wanted to learn more. So that's one thing that I've always tried to keep up with, whether it's taking a Skillshare class or Dustin Lee has his passive income class, which I took and then got swamped with everything else. So I'm still trying to catch up on all that stuff. But I would spend time learning about stuff, and things that are more creative. As Brian, my dream job would honestly be creating branding for craft beer packaging and stuff.
There you go. Not the lotto winner.
No, but that's if I have to work. If I can win the lottery, I'm still picking that one first.
Cool. That was a great question. I'm going to start adding that in, Brian.
That was a very good question.
It was. So what are some of the advantages to being the only creative at a firm? And so one of the things Andre was saying, so it's kind of like freelance. The only difference is that you're only working for one client. And so sometimes only working for one client.
Yeah, it really is. You have one overarching client, which is the company, and you've got to keep that in mind.
Which is an advantage also, because then you don't have to go through a bunch of different hats. And
no, so yeah, some of the advantages is I don't have to do 75 different versions a lot of times. Now there are times on certain things where I do have to do that, because it is a technical industry. It's not a creative industry. So there, the old "I'll know what it is when I see it" applies a lot.
Right.
So there's a constant education process that goes on of. And some days I'm better at it than others, of, what the expectations should be, how much time things are going to take, all of those. Those are some of the challenges. Some of the advantages are, like I said, I don't have to go through, 75 different revisions. I don't have to, a lot of times, especially since I've been there this long now, I really don't have to create multiple options a lot of times, because I know the voice of the company. I've helped set the direction that all of the creative is going to go in. So I get a seat at the table when it comes to things like that.
Right. Which is amazing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely is.
Sometimes when your company is spread out, that can also be an advantage, but it can also be a disadvantage, because it maybe nobody sees you face to face.
Yeah, that's one of the bigger challenges is, like I said, we've got offices from Philly to Houston. So I've been to most of the offices at some point, but it's been a couple of years since I've been able to make my way around. So there are people that I'm talking to that I've never met before. I've never seen them face to face before. I couldn't pick them out of the lineup if I tried. And the other challenge is while there's the overarching company that I work for, within that we have, subsidiaries. We've got a controls and automation group and a life sciences group. And, we've got the Hargrove Foundation. And we've just started 2 other nonprofits within that as well, that there's all sorts of branding that has to come up that all has to tie back into the main branding, but standalone as well. and that can be a real challenge. Is, do you stick with a color scheme, or do you stick with part of the main mark and use that for a piece of the logo? How do you balance all of those things? And being the lone creative is, there's 1,200 people at the company. That's a lot of work coming through my door. And it gets tough to keep up with things. Thankfully, the holidays slow down a lot. It's going to start ramping up here again soon, though. I can already see it.
Mm-hmm.
So
what's the we were just talking about you working from home and how sometimes maybe working from home you get more done. Why is that?
For me, it boils down to ADD.
Just able to focus because you have less distractions.
Yes. Yeah, I'm able to focus more. As you can see in my lovely, beautiful laundry room / office here. The kids aren't coming back here. I can lock myself in and I can dive into what I'm working on. When I'm in the office, there's constantly other people on the phone around me, or we're getting dragged into meetings or things like that. So there's not enough time. You get enough time to dive into something, and then you got to stop and switch gears and move on to something else. So a lot of times when I'm here at home, I'm able to focus more, take longer on individual projects, and really deep dive into them to focus on them.
Which is super helpful, and it can be really distracting. I am very similar to you in how I need to work. So Joe says, because I totally agree with this, he says, people can't just come to your desk and ask you about stuff, which does interrupt that flow, right?
Yes.
So you've been like one of my best supporters of Design Recharge. From really early, like first year, I would say for sure. Mm-hmm. So how did you get involved with Creative South? Because I think you heard about it on a Design Recharge episode.
I did hear about it on a Design Recharge show. You had Mike Jones on, and he was talking about it. And I don't remember what all was being said, but I apologize there. My email popped up and made a nice ding that I'm sure everybody heard.
I didn't hear it. Oh,
well, I heard it. Let me turn that off. By the way, that was another Creative South sale that came through, so we got another ticket. So Mike was talking about Creative South, and I was really interested, and it was really short. It was less than a month before Creative South, 2013. Is that right? Yeah, 2013. So my wife Tina, she's a designer as well. She's the one who's promising not to photobomb me.
Right.
So we really wanted to go, but we found out about it so late. There was no way we were going to be able to pull the money together to get 2 tickets and hotel and all of that stuff. A couple days later, I saw Peter Del Tondo, and I don't remember. I think Peter was on here
talking about design versus cancer.
Yeah, he was talking about design versus cancer. I remember that, but I think it was right around the same time that Mike was on.
It was.
Yeah, and he, mentioned in that he was going to be giving away tickets. Mm-hmm. So the minute the show ended and he had that posted up, I was like, "Pick me, pick me, pick me." And 4 people turning it down later because they weren't going to be able to make it, Peter picked me.
But it wasn't just about the money.
No.
You have 2 twins, and they were younger, right?
Yeah. So they were 3 at the time. Yeah, they were 3.5, 4 at the time, and it was trying to figure out, okay, who's going to watch the kids? How are we gonna afford this? Because it was just covering tickets. So I asked work. This was in my first full year of working for the company I work for now. And I was just honest. I was like, look, I had this opportunity that popped up. I won tickets. I would really love to go. I think it would be really good for me. Not knowing a whole lot about it. Yeah, and it really was. But I was like, I think it'd be really good for me. is there any way you can help me with like the hotel room and, like travel?
And that's good to even ask. Sometimes our people are even afraid to ask their work, but a lot of work want to help development. I hope they gave you something, maybe.
Yes, they did. They covered. We've got a policy at work that if you are driving off site, you have to have a rental car to be or a company car to be under their insurance. So if it's a work related function, you've got to have that. So they covered the rental car, they covered the hotel, they covered my food, they didn't cover my wife's food. Excuse me. So they covered all of that, and I got really lucky with that, and I am forever grateful for that, and forever grateful to Peter.
They've done it with other conferences, and you've been able to do some other conferences since then, right? I just want people to know, especially if you're a solo designer somewhere, don't be afraid to ask, because your development and your continued education is really important, and they realize that you're alone usually.
Yeah, so I'm also part of a group called SMPS, which is Society for Marketing Professional Services. I've been to the national conference for that, and some regional conferences for that. They've sent me to an Epicurrence, which I'm still shocked that happened, just based on the price of Epicurrence, as well as Weapons of Mass Creation this year, which I was lucky enough, going up there, I was also taking the podcast up there. So it really killed two birds with one stone. So, while sometimes it stinks being a solo designer, the company has treated me really well overall. I'm very lucky to be able to work for them with all that they provide for me.
Yeah. Okay. So you get the tickets and you get the welcome that is just a normal. Thankfully, a normal is an amazing welcome at Creative South, right?
Uh-huh.
So you get the family feel. You come in, you have a great experience. It was my first year and your first year at the same time.
Yeah, it was. It was my first year. It was your first year. There was a couple other people we knew that it was. I think that may have been the year afterwards. But, first year, Tina and I both kind of wallflowered it up a little bit. I mean, we said hi to the people that we knew and met a few people, not a ton, but a few, most of them who are on the Creative South staff. So we met Lenny, we met Mike. I literally didn't meet Mike until we were leaving. And I ran into him, because we weren't able to stay the full day Saturday just because it came together so last minute.
Right.
So we had to leave a little bit early, but we ran into him on our way out. And, if you've never met Mike is a very large man. He's about 6'4".
Like my height.
Yeah, like your height, but add a foot.
Maybe.
Maybe a foot and a half.
Yeah, I'm 5'1".
Yeah. So he's a big guy, and he shakes my hand and then just grabs me in and gives me a big bear hug, which, I was worried I was about to be crushed.
He does that to everybody. So
he does do that to everybody. So, but we'd already solidified the idea that we were coming back the next year based on the experience that we'd had so far. And then
So then when did you get involved more? So you come back the next year just as an attendee?
I came back the next year as an attendee, had really struck up a friendship with Lenny and Mike and Peter at that point, just through social media and keeping in touch with them, reaching out and, saying, if there's anything I can do to help, please let me know. I think they'd already booked up all the volunteers. So at that point, so we really just got to fully experience it. We weren't as much a wallflower as we were. We put ourselves out there, introduced ourselves to more people, introduced ourselves to people that we'd met through social media that we knew were going to be there, and reached out. And then going into the following year, which would have been last year's Creative South, about August or September, I started trying to think of what I could do to give back. it had been in the back of my mind before that. But it had really helped me open up, and it really helped
Because
me not feel alone. Yeah, go ahead.
because why? Why was it such an experience that you, after 2 times, felt compelled to give back? And the other thing I want you to answer is this: it's not just going. One thing
Yeah,
that you and Tina have done great is become involved. Social media, use social media to create. You created a connection in person, but then you maintained a relationship, and you built a relationship throughout the year.
right. So we, you know, I'm trying to figure out how to answer that properly. The wanting to give back was because of the connections I'd made.
Because they were
And
just so helpful.
they were so helpful. It got me out of this rut of feeling isolated. And that's one of the downsides that comes with being the solo creative and the lone creative in a company is you don't have somebody to bounce ideas off of. You don't have, another designer that gets what you're talking about and you can nerd out over design things with. So it really gave me that opportunity to talk to people who were like-minded and did the same thing as me and really understood that. And that was important to me. And I wanted to be able to give back in some way. And I directly related that to, not only winning the tickets, but being able to attend Creative South. So that was on the forefront of my mind.
I guess I love that also about Creative South is that they kind of have created this giveaway system. Like Fabio got my giveaway ticket this year.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I think God just put somebody on my heart, and he had put Fabio on my heart for, a long time. The first year I did a giveaway to Jeremy Rivers, and
Mm-hmm.
it was sort of the same thing. Somebody just starts a conversation and they really have a connection, and you see that this would really benefit them because of the experience, and not just it's one-time experience, it's the throughout the year experience. It's the people, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. And that's with starting the podcast. That was kind of my goal, is to help keep things going, because one of the things that does happen, and I don't know the right word to use, so this isn't the right word, but the downside of going to a conference like Creative South is when Creative South ends, everybody goes their own separate ways, and the only way you have to keep in touch is, social media and picking up the phone and things like that, which isn't the same as seeing other designers, seeing people put themselves out there, talk about the struggles that they have, and that was something that was interesting to me. Is, well, what are other people doing? Excuse me. At the same time, from coming on this show and talking to our friend Johnny Gwynn, who kept pressuring me to do a podcast where I didn't want to, because I didn't think that I had anything to say, which, makes the Creative South podcast perfect, because I'm not the one doing most of the talking. I just ask questions and sit back and listen. But it was my way of getting back and allowing people to feel that connection that goes on throughout the year. Or at least I hope that's what they feel. I haven't asked enough people probably, but to feel that connection throughout the year, to learn more about designers. And on the show we don't really talk about design all that much. We talk about people's lives, their kids growing up, where they're from, what got them interested in design. Kind of a lot of what you do on here. It's very similar. I can count on probably one hand the episodes that we've talked just about design, and they're that few and far between. And I've got close to 75 episodes now.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, and we're not even a year into the show. So
that's a lot of work.
Yes.
So somebody asked, an anonymous viewer asked, how do you decide who to interview for the podcast?
A bunch of different ways. It
Tell us
started
one.
out where, what did you say?
Tell us one of them.
Oh, well, I was going to.
Okay.
A bunch of different ways. It started out where I was just asking my friends, people that I already knew, and that was a way to get comfortable with it.
Mhm.
But pretty quickly on, I reached out to like Aaron Draplin and Fraser Davidson,
Mhm.
uh, just to just to because I knew there was only so many people I knew that would want to get on mic, and it was also a way of pushing myself out of my comfort zone. So the very first two episodes I put out were with Mike and Lenny, and that was a way to get me comfortable with being on the mic, being comfortable interviewing somebody, which is not anything I'd ever done before.
I used to
I'd
do it
interviewed people.
as a kid in front of the mirror, but really in person.
So yeah, so I started out that way, and then it just started literally me reaching out. Thankfully, Creative South has been going on for a while, so I was able to get those lists from Mike.
Mm-hmm.
But while I've looked at names on there and pulled from that, the vast majority of people I haven't contacted through Creative South. I've reached out on my own and just went on Twitter and said, "Hey, do you want to be on the podcast?"
So do you do research and you find people that are just doing interesting things or that are doing something that you think must have a story behind it?
I don't know if you'd call it research, but yes. I'm not that meticulous where it's research. But no, it's people I'm interested in, people that you see out there. Like I had Peter Bacayo on recently, and he's got the whiskey branding, and he and I really hit it off. But I was interested in his design stuff well before I ever reached out to him, and just thought it was really cool stuff that he was putting out there. I was like, I want to know more about him. Also, I want to try to figure out how to pronounce his last name properly.
Bacayao, right?
Bacayao, yes.
Bacayao.
Yes.
Yeah. I practiced that.
Yeah, believe me, it took me several times when I was recording that intro to get it right. So yeah, it's that. Every once in a while, I'll have people who will reach out to me, who are interested in being on the show. There's one that I still think is probably one of the best interviews I did with a guy named Victor Yako, who is a UX researcher, and he was writing a book called Design for the Mind, and it was about the psychology behind UX design and UX research. And we got on there talking, and through the conversation, he's a recovering alcoholic, so we ended up talking more about that than anything, about the stages of recovery and how a lot of agencies have the bar opens at 3 or 2, and how that can be difficult for a lot of people, especially if you're in recovery. Of that temptation is there, and is it one of those things that you're putting out there because it's a great perk, or or are you just putting it out there to put it out there?
Right. Well, so one of the ways I think, one of the things I'm impressed at is that you were kind of wallflower and you really pushed yourself to come out. How has that helped you? Because I really feel like a lot of people are in that, I'll be in a group, that is not me. I'll be in a group and they're like, oh yeah, we just don't want to talk to, they have their group and I'm like, well, let's meet some new people. And they want to meet new people, but they just don't really know how to get out and expand the, be a welcome or talk to other people sometimes. So that was something I feel like you've done really well. And then you've also built relationships throughout the year, on social media and in Slack groups. And I think that those things have helped your design as well as just helped you feel more connected to a community.
Sure. So I was definitely in that first camp of the shy, not that I'm not outgoing, just I'm not comfortable in large groups, so I get a little overwhelmed. So this was a easier way to break down that comfort level of starting talking to people one-on-one.
Right.
And then when I would see them in a large group, I could have a conversation with just them.
Right.
And I think that's where a lot of people get overwhelmed is, you're in this large group and you don't know who to talk to. And, if you can find that one person, talk to them. And then somebody else is going to come up eventually, and then talk to them, and then just expand out from that. But, you can't be in a conference setting where there's large groups all the time. So when the rest of the year rolls around, if you've met somebody at a conference, or if you met somebody just in everyday life that you want to talk to, keep up with them. That's one of the great things about, social media nowadays is it's a way to keep in touch with people. You mentioned Slack. That's Creative South has a Slack, has a family channel for Slack where it's, people who've been to Creative South before. And that, when that started, I think it was me and Zach Wilkin. And Zach and I have become really good friends. Simply because of that. I think we'd interacted we had talked before and had some conversations on Twitter and Facebook and stuff, but we weren't great friends. We were just kind of acquaintances at that point. And now, he's somebody that if I got a problem, I can call him up, and vice versa. And, we'll chew each other's ear off for a while.
How would somebody else want, if say they went to Creative South, or say they haven't, but they want to go this year and they want to get, they want to be part of that Slack channel. How would somebody do that? And that's what Matt Dawson says. And he runs Crop, which is in Louisiana, in Baton Rouge. He says, I want to get on that Slack channel. So how would somebody do that?
So I'm writing it down right now, but it's basically email me. It's jason@creativesouth.com.
Okay.
And it helps if I can type.
That's good. I can also put that in the show notes. So and go in and find a channel that there's a technology channel. There's
Sorry, I tried posting it, but it's telling me that everyone is not on the channel.
You have to update your Zoom. It's okay. I'll type it in.
Yes, you type it in.
Doing that for me for forever. But like Fabio joined the Slack. Oh man, Tina is on it. Thank you.
Thank you, dear.
Probably this year sometime, or not 2017, but since August maybe, Fabio. I don't know.
Yeah.
So but then you just get involved. If you have a break in your day, or you have a lull, and it's a good time to kind of connect back, or maybe it's before you come to work, or at the end of the day, or whatever. It's been hard to do that for me this year, but
sure.
But it's something that I'm thinking about doing for Design
Well,
Reach.
you act like you had to take on a lot more responsibility at work for some reason.
I did. Anyway, not about me, but I would like to do something like that for Design Recharge. And so I asked everybody in the newsletter this week if they would rather do like a Facebook group or a Slack channel. And
my vote is for Slack.
The overwhelming response I've gotten has been for a Slack channel. I don't mind doing a Facebook group as well, but I think it's a lot to ask somebody to do kind of both. And Slack is different. And so for people, I'll probably put a video series together on how to do it or how to interact. But I remember I think you introduced me to Slack, AIGA, and it really was a amazing connection. And I've set up a lot of clients like that, clients that are continuous, and we're not in the same city. So it really, really helps. So Amy says as well, she loves Slack too. And I guess I think, so Fabio says, if I have a break in my day, he will get on Slack. And I think that it is a good place to kind of get, because a lot of people will post ideas or post new designs, or questions. I know Brian White is like my best friend on Slack. Like it's always like, Brian, I need help. Brian, I need help. But because he's the smartest person I know, and he does so many things, I don't know how he sleeps.
Sure. Well, lately I've been hitting up Fabio for advice. He's become my sounding board and refiner of ideas for a lot of the stuff that I've been doing.
Yeah, he gave you an idea for the pencil podcast thing that you created for this episode.
Yeah, because originally, so whenever you get to that point, but my original idea was to do like, if you see like at a comedy club, the mic that's got the ball on the end and
Like
take a
this
picture.
one. Like this one.
Like that one, yes.
It's a fake one. I do game shows at school.
Okay.
Typography game shows. It's really fun.
Oh, we're going to have a whole conversation about that. But yeah, so it was originally to design a microphone and a pencil combination, kind of like that. And I wasn't happy with it, but it was just,
Sometimes you're stuck creatively.
yeah, I got stuck. I had the idea, and I had originally had the idea that Fabio suggested, but I was like, no, it's going to look too close to like the eraser, and people aren't going to be able to tell that it's a microphone on the end. So I talked myself out of it, and I didn't even try it. And then I threw up asking just for a little review on the one that I had done, where it's the ball style microphone. And Fabio came back and said, why don't you try like this? And as Fabio does in like 30 seconds after he posted something up.
Yeah.
And when I saw what he did, I was like, nope, that definitely doesn't look like a eraser on the end. That looks like a microphone on the end of the thing. So I went back and revised mine and, went with what I had originally talked myself out of doing.
Well, I'm glad, because it's really good.
Thank you.
And I thought that it was a good combination of what you were kind of going for, was the pencil with other things that you're doing. And so the
Sure.
podcast really for you has done what? So what is, and granted, everybody doesn't need to start a podcast, but what is just talking to other designers on a regular basis? Because you could do, like what I do a lot of times is just have a Skype lunch. I'll say, let's have lunch. And we may not eat, but I say it's kind of like a meeting, and we do it on Skype. So what has that done for you as a designer?
It's certainly opened up my relationships with other designers. I've made a lot more friends and a lot more connections, and people who I only tangentially knew before, like Matt Dawson is a good example. He and I will every once in a while text back and forth and message each other and stuff, and it's also opened, going back to that, being the wallflower at a conference and all, it's made me much more comfortable in talking to strangers.
So it's practice.
Yeah, it very much is practice. It's, I still don't like groups, but I can do them and I don't get anxious about it now. Mm-hmm. It's, as Johnny said, it definitely has improved my listening skills, because you've got to listen. You can't just be waiting for the next thing to say. If somebody brings something up, you can't just go, oh, and this one time you've got to listen to what they're saying, because it's not about you. It's about who you're having a conversation with.
One thing I've noticed, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
As we were just talking about, one thing I've noticed is that I used to be like a loud laugher, but now I have to laugh quietly. I can't laugh out loud, because then if I'm laughing, the mic's going to pick it up and it's going to be a sound issue in the playback. So now I just like smile really big. I remember there have been some episodes, my face hurts so bad at the end, because I've smiled so much or something. And so I think
I haven't gotten good at the laughing quietly. I need lessons on that.
I just hold it in, just like a sneeze. You should practice sneezing inside. That'll be a good practice. You know what I mean? Like, can you sneeze without making a noise? Like that? Like that? That's your sneeze?
I can. My back pops when I do it. I don't know if I should go see a doctor about that or not.
I don't know. That's funny. But anyways, let's keep going. But it's been a benefit. So it's about practicing. It's about stepping out. Nobody has been mean to you. It's the fear that maybe kept you from doing this in the past, but now it's really helped you blossom, right?
I think so. I think it's, it's allowed me to feel more comfortable in my own skin as well. Some days I'm better at that than others. One of the things that's kind of a reoccurring theme on the podcast is we talk a lot about with other designers about depression and anxiety.
Mm.
And it's really helped me be able to talk through that because I deal with that. Tina can tell you how much of a pain in the butt that can be. Sorry.
Okay,
Almost
so
all the way.
mom, you know.
Yes. Sorry, Mrs. Gibbs. So it's just made me a little more comfortable and open to talk about things that normally I wouldn't talk about before, which there's no reason not to talk about.
Right.
It's not like I'm going screaming out from the rooftop, I'm depressed, feel sorry for me. It's just, now that I've said that, I'm going to cringe when I watch this on playback. But it's that being able to relate to another person. That's the biggest thing. It's that
you feel
being able to
connected.
relate to another person. Yeah.
Yeah. And because you've opened up and been vulnerable many times and haven't been pushed away or laughed at, then you feel better about sharing who you really are with
Yes.
more people.
Very much so.
Yeah. And Johnny says stories connect us to each other's past labels and perceptions. Absolutely. And we realize that sometimes it's just about practice and we don't mess up, and we don't, even if we do mess up, we still are loved. We're still accepted, I think. And a really good piece of advice for everybody who's just kind of, I'm good just on my own or whatever, but it has made you a better designer.
Yes, I think so. And Doc, it's there. Trust me.
So,
Sorry, he said he hadn't gotten that vibe from me ever. It's like, it's there. I mean, it's not like it's one of those where I'm, curled up in the fetal position and can't leave the house. It's just a all around, they call it dysthymia, where I don't ever get really up there and all that. I've got, short waves. So.
Well, so how regular basis are you talking to somebody? Like on the Slack channel?
How often do I record?
Or how often are you on the Slack channel? Like every day, 2 days?
Pretty much every day.
Okay. Even on the weekends?
Even on the weekends.
Okay.
I mean, on the weekends, I tend to just pop in and out every once in a while. And I think most people on the weekends, you definitely see it slow down a lot. I don't know what that says about us at work, but yeah, I'm on the Slack channel pretty much every day. And I mean, there may be some days where I don't say anything, but I'm definitely reading stuff.
Right.
So I'm reading what you write. Be careful.
So what do you think you've learned about yourself? And you were interviewing once a week, and then you went to more than that.
Yeah, now I interview twice a week. And it started out, I was putting the show out once a week, and then I moved it up to twice a week. And then there was about a month and a half stretch there that it was 3 times a week because I had such a backlog of episodes that I had to burn through. Now, the downside of that is I burned out wasn't the right term for it because I definitely want to keep doing the podcast, but burned out on editing. It just became too much to take on. So we're actually going to, this is the last week of doing 2 episodes a week. We're going to go back to 1 episode a week for a little while. And see how that goes and focus on quality over quantity.
Because really it's you, right? You're kind of taking on all of that.
From booking guests to recording to editing to finding sponsors to if it's podcast related, I'm the one doing it.
And D. Hellman says, I'm able to keep up with 1 episode a week. I am so behind. I am very similar to you because it's hard. 1 episode a week is because I spread out my listening from multiple podcasts. So I think it makes me feel like a loser if I can't get through all the ones that are published, right?
Derek, I'm slowing down just for you and Amy.
Okay. So
when I see Amy just posted that as I said it.
So what have you learned about yourself and about the design industry besides just that more people maybe struggle with other things? That's really seems like it's really been important and really helped you. Um, but what else?
I've gotten better about getting out of my own way. That's the
Mm.
big thing. It's the, you know, I really realized that nobody's holding me back but me. So that's with like the illustrations that I've been doing lately. It's, when I get stuck on something at work or I'm waiting on information and I know that it's going to come in a time where if I started on another project that I would just have to drop things and jump back and forth. I'll take that time to work on just quick and simple illustrations.
So let's talk about those real quick. So you sent me this kind of series that you had been working on. You want to talk us through these real quick? And then, so these are just when you have a little bit of extra time.
Yeah. I mean, most of them are pretty quick. They don't take a ton of time to do. The coffee day was for National Coffee Day.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
Sorry.
The column was part of a series, and I just started making. For some reason, I saw a gavel in my head. I saw something. There was a bunch of ovals put together, and I was like, "Hey, that kind of looks like a gavel." So I was like, "Well, I'm going to try that." And I'm not going to advise you to do this, but none of these were sketched out on paper ahead of time. Well, the monogram was.
What about, but this is part of the series, right?
Yeah, that's part of the series. That's law books. Yep.
Are these on sale somewhere?
Not yet, but they will be soon. They will.
This is a passive income kind of.
This is a passive income kind of thing. It did not start out that way. It just ended up being, I started one, I did the gavel, then I did the scales, and then I don't remember what was next, but the legal paper and the law books and all of those things, and it just shaped up real quickly into a series of stuff. So yeah, I'm going to package all that stuff and put it up on Creative Market soon.
Cool. And then this is your mark for you, right?
Yeah. So I was wanting to do some more freelancing stuff and realized if I'm like sending out packages, I don't have a brand. Like I don't have a logo or anything like that. I used to years ago when I operated under Frosted Designs, and I don't operate under that anymore. I just operate under me.
Mm-hmm.
So I realized I need something.
Shane says he digs that mark, and I love that. And I remember you working on this on the Slack channel, and I think it was either Adam Ergel or
Mike Jones
or somebody kept saying, hey, what about this little shadow? And you really like tweaked, and it was that now you have this community that can come and be so anal and specific about crazy weird things that we're anal and specific about.
Yeah, and Mike will get on to me about this because the gray version over on the other side, he swears should not have the cuts in it.
Yeah, I don't know. The cuts look better on the white version for sure.
Yes, I definitely agree because it gives it that shadow. So
yeah, it's really nice. Like that shadow on the F and that crossbar, the A, it is just really, really nice. So then what about the Flatiron building?
So that was for a freelance project. That was actually matching somebody else's illustration style. I did a freelance project for a conference that was going on in New York, and they wanted a picture of some iconic buildings in the city. And they already had
in Denver?
Huh? No, that's the Flatiron building in New York.
Oh, I don't know. There's a building like that in Denver.
Whenever you see like Law and Order and they do the cityscape thing, the one that they always like all the traffic scenes always converge around that because it's that diagonal building, weird intersection. Right. It's like the one diagonal intersection in New York and that's what the Flatiron building is.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so that was just fun and was trying to match somebody else's style and match that mono weight illustration.
So one of the questions we had, Joe asked earlier, Jason, how much planning does it take to put a podcast together? And he said he may have missed it, but is it
more than I do?
So kind of take us, so you have to send out an intro email. How far in advance do you do something like that?
I use a calendar program called Calendly that gives people the options to book their own dates. And I only record on Tuesdays and Sundays. Not Tuesdays, Thursdays and Sundays. So those are the dates that they have, and there's a few time slots that are open for those.
Is that it? CALEND.LY?
Yes.
Great. Thank you, Joe.
So so I use that to and send that out with a booking email. So I basically have a semi form letter that's just, thanks for being interested in that. Typically record on these dates and times, blah blah blah. Click here to book which time would work best for you, and then I have it open. The booking window is basically 60 days out, I think. So they can book anywhere within those of when it's available.
Cool.
And that's made my life a lot easier. And then I'll send out a follow-up email the week of, just saying, hey, are we still on for recording?
And then do you have them record it and you record it?
I do. So I have them record their audio. I record through a program on Skype that picks up both of our audio in separate channels. And then I also record on my end. That way, if Skype at any point screws up, I can, piece those together. And a lot of times I actually use the native audio. Not a lot of times. Most times I use the native audio over Skype as it is, just because it's a little better sound quality. Every once in a while, there's some points where I can't find where the intro marker is. Just because it's been so long and trying to sync that up, that I'll use the Skype and
gotcha. So
it's very interesting.
So I know we're almost out of time. So I wanted to talk. So how can people help, or how can people support the podcast? I know you recently did the Patreon page.
Patreon.com/creative Seth.
Can you talk about the decision to do that?
It was tough because I do get sponsors, but not many, and it's mostly trade sponsorships. So get a banner paid for, or you can't see it, but the t-shirt that's on there, did those in trade. So when it comes to hosting the podcast and getting the social media software to schedule stuff out, and all those things cost money. And while I wish that I could afford to do everything myself, it does get expensive, especially come the end of the year when everything comes due at once, and there's $300-400 that you got to come out with in the pocket. And if for some reason, then I use a fairly basic mic right now. I'd like to upgrade mics. I'm sure Johnny Glynn's gonna pipe up about that.
So what about where you host your podcast? Because that was something that you told me. You were like, oh, well, you should really do it, because I think where you're doing it may be preferable to where I'm doing it.
Sure. There's, about 15 different ways that you can do it. The best one that you can use is go straight through Libsyn.
Spell that for me.
I believe it is LYBSIN.
Okay.
Johnny just posted it over in the chat.
Okay.
That's probably the best and most stable and has been around the longest. I use Simplecast just because it's a little easier to use. I may switch over when my contract comes up with them. I haven't quite decided yet.
Do you have to move all your old episodes then?
You can do a 301 redirect and it'll pull in.
Okay.
So, that gets. I'm researching how to do all that at the moment, so that's why I can't very well answer that question.
No worries. No worries.
Yes, I probably have to end up manually moving all that stuff. So I'll probably, I'll probably start working on that and just do a month to month while I'm switching things over.
Gotcha.
If I decide to go that route. So that's what I use for the hosting. That's, I don't know, $20 a month, I think. And Libsyn's a little more expensive than that based on the amount of data you use, but it has more options, and it, sends it out to SoundCloud and automatically to iTunes and you know,
Just so everybody knows, that's listening on the podcast, it's libsyn.com and $20 a month.
Yeah. So so there's those hosting costs. There's, the cost of Calendly. There's the cost of, I use a social media program called Meet Edgar. That's pricey. It's $50 a month.
What does that do?
So it allows me to post a recurring schedule. So basically, I set out what my calendar looks like for the week, and I build a library, and it pulls from that archived library of posts. And I've got them categorized into different things, and it'll, whether it's I'm posting that, this episode is going up, or so-and-so is sponsoring this episode, or if there's something that I've seen from like Communication Arts or one of those feeds that I subscribe to.
And I think that was one of the things that you were talking about with Simplecast and maybe with Libsyn, that you were able to track more things. So you can look at more analytics. And I think maybe that would be something, if you're looking into doing something like this, that might be something you want to look for, because I know where I know there are some.
So I track my downloads. I know on average, in an average week, I'm getting just shy of 2,000 downloads.
And you track that through Simplecast?
Through Simplecast. Libsyn, you can dive a little deeper in. I believe you can find out, gender and age as well.
Johnny says day downloads, so that you can do it by day. So those are things that are really important for someone who's starting something like that.
Yeah. So, and those numbers are important when it comes to finding sponsors, because they want to know how much traffic is going through there. So
sure,
that's why I keep up with it.
Well, Jason, we'll have to continue this conversation, and we'll have to do it another time, because I'm so really trying to stay under an hour. So next week we have Dan Lee. It is probably going to be a Saturday show. I don't even know what time it's going to be yet. So I want to make sure you guys tune in. So I'm going to, within the next month, set up a Design Recharge channel, more than likely a Slack channel, and then do my best. It's spring semester is the hardest one for me, busiest, and then so it may be right before April or something like that. But I definitely want to have a meetup at Creative South, and so that we can kind of get together and kumbaya it up, I guess, because we spend a lot of time every week, and I really, really appreciate it, and I'm just super excited. So just want to make sure everybody knows ways to connect with Jason. You can go to Dribbble, which has 3 B's, dribbble.com, J Frostholm, and I'm going to put that in the chat over here. It'll also be in the show notes. I actually think it's already there. And then you can find him on Twitter at J Frostholm, Frostholm, and then on Instagram at J Frostholm. And Doc just put his number up there. I don't think that's really his number.
No,
but then you can also,
5309.
if you're interested in listening to the Creative South podcast, you can check that out at you can find that on iTunes or on Simplecast, I guess.
Yeah, creativesouth.com/podcast.
Oh, okay.
All right, we just changed the link over.
Okay, so I will fix that in later. Maybe I can copy it real quick. So you can always find me. And Jason said, if you want to get on the Slack channel for Creative South, you can email him at jason@creativesouth.com. And then if you want to email me, if you have somebody that you would love for me to interview, we are setting up the rest of through June, July now. And I do have somebody. I don't have Calendly. I have Ashley, who's better than any Calendly.
I would agree with that. If I could afford a personal assistant to help me with that, I would.
She's amazing.
I would do it.
But anyway, I do listen to you guys, and I try to put out people that you would or interview people that you guys would like to hear. So I just want to thank you guys for tuning in to Jason and me today, and I hope you guys will tune in next Saturday. I'm not sure the time, but watch your emails for that, and I would so appreciate, and I can't wait to see you then. And if you need me, you can always email me. Love to have you do a iTunes review or a review on YouTube if you're watching this.
And please review the Creative South podcast too.
Or any comments or anything. We really appreciate those. So email me at diane@designrecharge.org or diane@rechargingyou.com. All right. Thanks, guys. And
thank you, Diane.
thank you, Jason. And I'll see you guys next Saturday.